Hello and good evening. Welcome to the Mythical Ireland Library. I'm slightly out of focus. Is that such a bad thing? Um, yes, good evening and welcome. You're all, yes, you're all very welcome to this evening's live stream. This is episode number 302. Who'd have thought it? Silence the phone so it doesn't keep buzzing during my live stream. So tonight, we're talking about a particularly favorite subject of mine. Libraries. Yes. For a second, a pregnant pause there. You all had maybe different ideas in your minds. It's not cheesy dad jokes, although that comes in a close second place. If you're watching, whether it's on YouTube or on Facebook, please do feel free to comment, to say hello, to join the conversation. We will do our best, especially if you are new. But regardless of whether you're new or not, we'll make you feel very welcome. And since the outbreak of COVID-19 back in March of 2020, this has become something of a warm, welcoming and safe space for people who are interested in ancient Irish mythology and culture and history. Just to say that if you are a first-time viewer, don't forget to check out the Mythical Ireland website. That's mythicalireland.com and associated social media channels, including the new Blue Sky account. And when I announced that I was setting up Blue Sky, a few people were a little bit perturbed. They said, are you doing that instead of Facebook? And I said, no, actually, doing it in addition, but just as an alternative. Apparently, a lot of people are leaving X at the moment, formerly known as Twitter, for reasons that they can discuss among themselves, but I think some of the reasons would be fairly obvious to some of us. Anyway, we are continuing to read from P.W. Joyce's Social History of Ancient Ireland, which we have been enjoying immensely. Well, I know I have. I think from the fact that you keep returning, it would suggest that you also are enjoying it. If you have the book, we're starting on page 485, and the subject is, under ancient literature, ancient libraries. Fascinating stuff. But before we start, I will say hello to all the people who have said hello so far. First in the house tonight, what a shock, are the two Texans, Elaine Dent-Lingenfelter, first of all, telling us that it's 13 Celsius in central Texas, which is cool for Texas, definitely. But it's still 5 degrees warmer right now at Dublin Airport, which is about 20 miles south of me. It's 5 degrees, and there is a breeze that is bringing what we call a wind chill factor, which is making it feel 2 or 3 degrees colder. It's quite cold out there, but the upside is it's a beautiful starry night. Just after dusk, or just after sunset, at dusk, we saw Venus, the evening star, very low in the southwest, sort of southwest, but shining brilliantly. And on the opposite side of the sky, coming up in the east, is Jupiter, which is in the constellation of Taurus. And if you wait long enough, you'll see Mars just beneath the twins of Castor and Pollux, or Gemini, if you know how to find your way around the sky. So some nice things to be seen in the sky. At midnight, Orion high in the south, looking resplendent. Betelgeuse, some people call it, looking brilliantly bright after its dimming there a few years ago. Johnny Wilson, who's also in Texas, in Dallas, is saying a big hello to all of us. Hello, Johnny. Welcome back. And he says, like Elaine did, that the temperature there is in the 50s. That's Fahrenheit. In Celsius, for those of us in Europe, 13. Tuesday Thompson, as usual, is wishing us a happy Mythology Monday. Well, you're very welcome. Thank you for that. And I hope you enjoy it also. Janet Moran is saying, hi there. Anthony on the Tua from Boston, 8 Celsius this sunny afternoon. Sounds a bit like the weather we had today. I think it topped out at around 8 degrees. a cool day, but a bright day. Nice to see the sun shining in the winter because we've had a lot of cloudy weather over the last number of months. Judy McQueen is joining us. Hello, Judy. Good afternoon to you. Helen Hirsch Chader is also in the house. Hi there. Happy to be here. Well, we're happy you're here. Absolutely. Dina Sparks says, afternoon, Anthony and the two. A beautiful fall day here in New Mexico. Right at 59 Fahrenheit, which is probably what? About 14, 15 Celsius. It is 15. There you go. Yeah, reasonably good. Rex Fortenberry is saying 80 Fahrenheit and sticky in Louisiana. Well, that's a big difference, isn't it? 26.6667. Wow. Let's call that 27 degrees. After a wonderfully cool weekend. Oh, well, you can't have everything. Ready to get down with some Mifflin. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't think I could stick it, Rex, I'll be honest. Between the heat and the humidity, it's a combination that I think would make most of us uncomfortable. Susan Scott says hello and sends a big red heart right back at you, Susan. And good evening, good afternoon to you. Mariana Dunn is saying that it is a sunny day in Alexandria, Virginia. Brilliant stuff, Mariana, and good afternoon to you. Susan Scott also sending us a wave. Brendan Byrne is saying, good evening, lovely people. Hello there, Brendan. Hope all is well. I hope the stars are particularly resplendent over Glendalougha in County Wicklow. Barbara Murphy is saying hello from a lovely, warm Tucson, Arizona. 25 Celsius, and it should top out at around 27. Nice. Happy Thanksgiving to all who will celebrate that this week. And thanks for joining us, Barbara. And it sounds nice there. Linda Bird is saying hello from Maryland. Hello, Linda. How are you keeping? Hope you're in good form. Desiree Riley is saying, me and Amadeus are getting super excited for my family to arrive tomorrow from, excuse me, from Louisiana to spend Thanksgiving with us. Yay! My stepdad is going to make a big gumbo Friday, and all my friends and their families are coming. So much good things to look forward to. And no better way to start off a good week than with the Mythical Ireland family for Mythflix Monday. Brilliant stuff. And hello to Amadeus as well. Hello from Colorado, says Joe. Gorgeous day with snow on the way. I mean, what a difference in terms of the weather reports from various parts of the states. Jacqueline Kelly Adams is joining us, sending greetings from the cold Pacific Northwest. Happy Thanksgiving this week to all those U.S. citizens. So here's a question for all of you. Where would you rather be right now, in a cold Pacific Northwest or in a hot and sticky Louisiana? To which I can immediately sense that people are saying, why isn't Ireland a third option? You know, and Scott Doherty is saying, warm hellos from County Clare last night here for a bit. Oh, dang. Well, safe home and hurry on back again. I know you don't need to be told or to be encouraged. Elaine Lingenfelder says no sound. Is that widespread? Have I? Don't tell me I've been talking to myself for 7 minutes, please. Kieran Burns is in the house. Good evening to you, Kieran. Hope you're keeping well. Thanks for joining us. Clay Webster is in Arlington in Texas. Hello, Clay. A very, very good afternoon to you. And we've already had reports about lowish temperatures there. Thank you, Helen. Signed up for the Blue Sky on Mythical Ireland on Blue Sky. Paula O'Dowd is joining us from Pasadena in California. A very good afternoon to you. Just about, I think. If I'm not mistaken, it's 8 minutes past midday there. It's 8 minutes past 8 p.m. here in the Boyne Valley in Ireland. Burr Whelan. Hi, Anthony. Hi, Tua. It's cold and clear in Dublin. Yes. But we like that, don't we? Better than the kind of dull, incessantly dark, damp weather. I don't know. The only thing is you have to use the heating more often. Mel Fraze is in a rainy Northern California. Well, I hope it's warm rain. As we say in Ireland, I love the summer here. The rain gets warmer. Mel, you're very welcome to Live Irish Myths. Alan Hoskins is in Ballina, Killaloe. Chilly enough this evening. Hope all are well. Yes, indeed it is. And if you've been out, there's a bit of a wind chill. So definitely an extra layer or two required. Deborah Gilbert is in the house following you on Blue Sky. Greetings from Connecticut. Good afternoon, Deborah. From the Boyne Valley in Ireland to all our Connecticutan followers. What's the collective noun for people from Connecticut? Tom King is in the house. Hello there, Anthony and the Mighty Two. I hope all good, Fatal. Glad to be working fire again. Enjoy story time. Well, I'm glad to hear you're working the fire again after the week you've had. And we missed you last week, but hope you're on the mend. And lots of good wishes. I don't know if you got a chance to view last week's episode, but I think it would hearten you greatly. Lots of people asking for you. The Beehive, M44, the Guardian Angel, Capella, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, the Starry Plough, all move through Taurus. Got my telescope, says exit 101. What kind of telescope did you get? Sounds nice. And welcome to Live Irish Myths. Not sure we've seen you before watching on YouTube. You're very welcome. Don't forget to subscribe to the Mythical Ireland channel. Cold Northwest, anywhere but hot and sticky Louisiana, says Desiree. Well, that's one answer, to which Rex says, ha! Yes, indeed. Jacqueline Kelly Adams is voting with her feet. She's saying Ireland, even though that wasn't one of the options. Anne McCallum has joined us. Hello, Antone and all the Mighty Two. I hope all is well with everyone. Got our first snowfall last week with 0 Celsius. Lots of rain, bitterly cold and windy. Saw lots of videos of the horrific storm Bert. Wow, it's dull and rainy, 10 Celsius. Have happy Thanksgiving weekend to all American Tua. Yeah, we were quite lucky, quite fortunate in the Boyne Valley with Storm Bert. It seemed to have affected the south and west the worst, and with flooding in places. And the winds were strong for a time, but it wasn't long lasting, thankfully. No major damage done in this part of the world, at least. Heather Marie Leaning, can hear you fine, but just walked in. Red Book's coming out. Have to take the name. Hello, Heather Marie, and a few other people saying the sound is okay. Catherine Cleary, so happy to be joining you all from a sunny 69 Fahrenheit San Diego, California, taking the beautiful view of our harbor and ready for Irish mythology. 69 doesn't sound too bad, especially if you're close to the ocean. That's 20.5 Celsius. That's nice. Yeah, I'd take that. And Mel Phrase, I'd rather be in Louisiana only because I've never been, and NOLA would be fun to explore. Is that Northern Louisiana? NOLA, what is that? Sorry, non-Yank here. Don't know what that means. Tuesday Thompson, I would definitely prefer Ireland over either of those two options. Okay, well, I mean, I should have made it an option, but I yes, sounds fine. Brilliant. Great. Super. Ali is saying hello from a still warm Tucson. Well, keep it that way because lots of other people are cold. Teresa Collins, hello, Ali, says hi to Anthony and Antua Golair. Greetings from a cool and chilly Killarney where we have 4 degrees, but it's not raining. Yes, victory. Yeah, exactly the same. No, not exactly the same. 5 degrees. The current METAR at Dublin Airport. Wind 7 knots from the southwest, varying between south and west/northwest. Humidity 87%, pressure 1,003 hectopascals. Visibility 10 kilometers or more. Well, we'll take that any day, says you. Could be we are nutmeggers. It's the nutmeg state, says Deborah. Is that Connecticut? The nutmeggers. But is there not if somebody's from Drogheda, you would say they're a Droghedian, a Connecticutan. I don't know. Yes, nutmegger sounds fine. Elaine says, phew, sound back. Okay. I think you were the only one it was gone for, Elaine. But, NOLA equals New Orleans. Okay. I should have known. Thank you to the couple of people pointing that out. Lack of knowledge on my part. Apologies. Yes, New Orleans, more than likely. NOLA is New Orleans. Yes. Thank you. Christy Goodlett is saying, g'day from the Sunshine State, Queensland, Australia, where it's always warm and mostly dry, but sometimes wet. Good morning to you, Christy. Happy Tuesday to you from all of us who are still in Monday in the Northern and Western Hemispheres. Joe Butler, Auntie Joe, is saying hello to Tom King and hope that he is well and back at the forge and doing what he loves. Yes, indeed. Neil Burridge is in Cornwall. Greetings to you, Neil. Thank you for popping in to say hello and hopefully hanging around for an exploration of ancient libraries. Well, let's get to it then. Certainly, Professor. Imagine we were in a big lecture theatre, you know, and you were all sitting there and Desiree in the really comfortable chair with Amadeus, you know, and Tom over in the corner with smoke rising and causing all the smoke alarms to go off, hammering away at the anvil. You know, I'd be able to see all the facial expressions like I did on the Zoom that we had to celebrate the 300th episode. And particularly would be able to see the reaction to my my dad jokes. And I was delighted to see people laughing and giggling because I have no idea what the reaction is generally, you know. Anyway, let's go, shall we? Yes. House of Manuscripts. Considering the fame of the Irish universities for learning and the need of books for students, it is plain that in all the important Irish monasteries, there must have been good general libraries, including not only copies of native Irish books, but also works in Irish and Latin on the various branches of learning then known, and copies of the Latin and Greek classics. The Annals of Tigernach, who was abbot of Clonmacnoise and died in 1088, show that there was a well-furnished library in that great monastery. For, to use the words of Dr. Charles O'Connor, quote, the quotations, interesting, quote, the quotations from Latin and Greek authors in Tigernach are very numerous, and his balancing their authorities against each other shows a degree of criticism uncommon in the age in which he lived, unquote. We often find mention of the Czech Sceptra, Czech, T-E-C-H, being the Middle Irish word for what we call now Teach, T-E-A-C-H, which is the Irish word for a house. We often find mention of the Czech Sceptra, House of Manuscripts, which was the Irish name of the library. And I'm thinking that that word scriptra for manuscripts is based on Latin. Presumably the origin of the word manuscripts is tied in with the word script. So you find, and we have spoken about that on many an occasion, for example, in relation to the name of Bridget, as it is explained in the pseudo-etymology, as the experts call it, in Cormac's glossary, bro haggit, and that this haggit is actually on its own saget, which is basically a direct borrowing from the Latin for arrow, bright arrow, isn't it? Bro haggit, bright arrow, or is it burning arrow, flaming arrow? I think it's bright arrow, isn't it? Oh, do I have to pull Cormac's glossary off? I do. Rabbit hole! We're only 3 minutes into reading and already a rabbit hole has opened up. I will not be satisfied until I find out whether a bro haggit means bright arrow or burning arrow. I think it's bright arrow. Cormac's glossary. Cormac's glossary, here we go. Bridget, i.e. a poetess, daughter of the Dagda. Bridget, then, bro haggit, a fiery arrow. Ah, right, okay. Fiery. Not bright. Fiery. Like Tom's forge. Fiery. Like Tom's personality. I know. He's not fiery. He's fun. Veronica Smith is saying hello. Hello there, Veronica. Welcome to the episode. Sorry, we've already descended into a rabbit hole. Susan Scott is saying hello to all of us from a sunny but now wintry Connecticutans. Brilliant stuff. Well, not brilliant, I suppose. It's wintry, but hey, it's not raining. That's always a bonus. Rex loves rabbits. Do you mean as pets or as food? Important distinction. Tuesday Thompson, the US government printing office says Connecticuter. But of the actual people I've known, about 2. I think they mostly say nutmegger for themselves. Okay, brilliant. Connecticuter. Yeah. It's funny how things are pronounced, isn't it? When you read it, you go Connecticut, but it's Connecticut. And then you read, what's the famous one? Well, there's more than one, I know. Yeah, Arkansas. So there's Kansas, as in Kansas City, and then there's Arkansas, which is Arkansas. And it just reminds me, that's a terribly Irish thing. I told you recently, I'm sure I did, about the place name in, yes, I did, almost certainly, just a few episodes ago. I told you about the place name in the county of Louth, which is the county I live in here. And it's spelled Mullary. It's a townland. It's sort of not far from Dunleer, the village of Dunleer. Mullary. And you'd look at it and you say Mullery. But it's pronounced Mulera. I know. It doesn't make any sense. But people are peculiar. Fergal Campton has joined us from Kilkenny. Hello, Fergal. Long time no see. Are you still strumming away at the guitar? Are you still writing? More importantly. Margaret, Hughes, is telling us it's 7 degrees in Birmingham. It's a bit warmer than it is here, where it is 5 degrees, Margaret. But I hope the stars are shining there. The word script is still in use today in film. Oh, yes, of course it is. Yes, film scripts, yes, indeed. So we've re-emerged from the rabbit hole. Fiery arrow. I doubted myself, and I was right to doubt myself because I was wrong. Try Louisiana names like Chapetulus. Is that how it's pronounced? Chapetulus. Well, it reminds me of the fact that I often see spellings, and I apologize regularly for saying I don't know. For instance, just very minor things. We're still in the rabbit hole, turns out, haven't just completely re-emerged just yet. Elaine Dent, I used to say Lingenfelter until I met her in person, and she just said it's Lingenfelter. You just ignore the G. And it reminded me of my own city here of Drogheda. Sorry, I don't own it. I just live here. Because an awful lot of people who've never been here or who try to pronounce it for the first time will say Drogheda or Drogheda. But the G is silent. You actually just completely ignore the G. Drogheda. And then the other one was Helen Hirsch. For a long time, you'll remember, if you look back on the episodes from 2020, in particular, I was calling her Helen Hirsch Chadder. And then I met her in person, and I said, how do you pronounce your name? And she says, Chader. So I hope I'm getting all the others right. If I'm not, please do feel free to correct me, because I like to be right, you know. It's a journalistic grounding in me. I was always told one of the very important things when you're interviewing somebody, or you're on the phone or you're face to face with somebody and you're getting information off them for the newspaper, and they tell you their name, make sure you ask them to spell their name. Don't assume that you know how their name is spelt and then spell it wrong in the paper, because that'll annoy them. Rightly so, by the way. So people often say, Anthony, is that with or without a H? And I say, with. And they say, so, Anthony. Because Anthony, there is a version of Anthony that can be spelled Antony. But I think the more common spelling is Anthony. It's like that joke I say, is that Stephen? How do you spell Stephen? Oh, with a PH. So, Stephen. Your name is Stephen. I have to write that in the comments. I'm making myself laugh here. No one else is laughing. Everyone else is looking at the screen going, he needs help. Okay, so now 6 minutes after going down a rabbit hole, hopefully we can re-emerge right now. So we often find mention of the Czech Skratra, the House of Manuscripts, which was the Irish name of the library. The Four Masters record at Stephen. I told you before. I once heard that when I was 10 years ago, when I was approaching the age of 40, I was told quite specifically, if you haven't grown up by the time you're 40, you don't have to. So the Four Masters record at AD 1020 the burning of Armagh, quote, with all the fort, without the saving of any house in it except the library, Czech Skratra, only, and also were burned their books in the houses of the students, unquote. So apparently all of Armagh, the fortress of Armagh, Alan Macha, burnt down, and the only thing they saved was the library. Save the books. Exit 101 says, it's too late to grow up now, and there are people laughing. So should I take that as a yes, more please? Actually, several people have just left the live stream. The numbers are falling, so I better stop the jokes. Is the pee in swimming pool silent? Depends on whether you pee in the deep end or not. Oh my god, I feel like we could make... Oh, actually, there's the biggest one of all. For forever and a day, I've been calling Desiree, and it was only when we did one of our first Zooms, you were out with the dogs and you were talking to somebody else and said, it's Desiree here. And I'm like, this is Desiree, the woman I've been calling Desiree all these months. Her real name is Desiree. Yes, we certainly could make a whole episode. I could probably write a book about it, but I don't think it would sell very well. Always save the books, says Caroline Dash, who makes a dash for the library to save it from burning down. I'm sorry. I'm sure you've never heard a joke before based on your name. I apologize profusely. I know, terrible. The inner child is coming out. No, it's not that the inner child is coming out. The inner child never went away. The school, I'm sorry, Caroline. I do apologize for my absolutely childish, immature, puerile behavior. The school libraries are noticed in a passage in the Book of Leinster, which represents Dallan Forgal in the 6th century as saying, quote, among the schools with libraries, Etcher Skolov Skeptra, thou hast read the mysteries of the Ro Sualt, unquote. A monstrous sea fish, for which see chapter XXX infra. Well, we must have read about that. Infra, supra is further on. Infra, inferior is before, isn't it? Chapter XXX. We are on XII. No. Infra must be further on then, is it? Infra, below. Supra, above. Super, inferior. Superior, inferior. Superior, but before. Infra, below. Okay. Just remember. I use those in my monographs. You think I'd know at this stage, wouldn't you? So we haven't actually read that bit yet. But I'm looking forward to the episode about monstrous sea fish. When the library was extensive, there was a Laur Comajach, or bookkeeper or librarian. And that's from Adovnon. And of course, St. Adovnon was most famous as being the biographer of, or the hagiographer, if you prefer, of St. Columkill. In this group, we all laugh together. That's why it's such a great place to be, says Desiree. Thank you, Desiree. Thank you, Desiree. But consequently, when a bad joke is told, we all sit there with a very astonished, straight face on us going, what the hell did he just do? Yes. Never say, speaking of which, never change the way you say my name. I love it. Barbara Murphy says boo, which may have been to an earlier joke. Sorry, give me 1 second, which may have been to an earlier joke. Book satchels. The books in a library were usually kept not on shelves, but in satchels, hung on pegs or racks round the walls. And I have a feeling we read this before, or if we didn't read this before, we certainly had an episode in which we discussed books, because this feels or seems like very, very familiar material. Each satchel containing one or more manuscript volumes and labelled on the outside. When Longarad of Slieve Margy, a most eminent scholar of the 6th century, died, quote, the book satchels of Ireland, in Irish, Chiaga Lawer Éireann, fell down from their racks on that night. Or, according to another account, it is the satchels wherein were books of every dawn or science, D-A-N, or science, in the cell where Columkill was, that fell then. And Columkill and everyone in that house marvelled, and all are silent at the noisy shaking of the books. Yeah, I'm sure the books are shaking at some of the things that are going on in the world today. Anyway, or we all do a Movanway Millward face. Yeah, has Movanway got a particular way of reacting to my, quote, jokes, unquote? Yeah, so shaking of the books. Wow. When Longarad, a most eminent scholar, died, all the books of Ireland shook. The falling of the books typified the loss learning sustained by the death of Longarad. Satchels were very generally employed to carry books about from place to place. It was necessary for a missionary priest to have always at hand books containing, now folks, books containing copies of the Gospels, offices, special prayers, etc., which he brought with him on his journeys. And students generally brought the few books necessary for their studies. Such books were almost always carried in a satchel, which is ever called Tiag or Tiag Leor, satchel for books, T-I-A-G. It was made of leather and was commonly slung from the shoulder by one or more straps. It's amazing, isn't it? That, okay, school bags are different today, but not that long ago, you know, did we call them satchels in Ireland? I'm not sure. Certainly, it seems like a very English word, but not that long ago, that's exactly what a school bag looked like. It was made of leather, slung over the shoulder with a few books in it. And the English certainly call them satchels. I think as long as I've been alive, we've called them school bags. I don't know if anybody calls them satchels here, or if that's a dated term, as it were. Manuscripts, but what I'm saying is, I'll get round to saying it at some point, Anthony, just say it. Stop mumbling and rambling. Is that, you know, this is the way it was for centuries. I mean, we're talking about from the middle of the first millennium AD, for hundreds upon hundreds of years. This is how books were carried around in a leather satchel. Perhaps persons sometimes brought their books about in a large pocket in the outer mantle above the waist girdle. Unless that person was encumbered by, shall we say, some middle-aged spread, in which the satchel might be a more attractive option. In the tripartite life, we read that St. Patrick, one time, met 6 young clerics and 6 gillies with them, with, quote, their books in their girdles, unquote, a lower in a criss. But he offered them criss, C-R-I-S-S, or sometimes spelled C-R-O-I-S, meaning a girdle or a belt, like the crush vrije. But he offered them the cushion hide that he had sat and slept on for 20 years to make a tiag or satchel for their books, which they gladly accepted. Lynn Swan tells us, I can still remember the smell of my leather satchel, but I'm very old. Yeah, leather has a peculiarly, I think it's a nice smell, but leather does, especially fresh leather, and Christy says leather would have kept the books good and dry. Yes, indeed, Brendan Byrne tells us that a bad dad joke results in 1 sip of the dram, while a good dad joke requires 2 sips. Can't complain about dad jokes. It all depends on what you're drinking, which whiskey. Manuscripts that were greatly valued were usually kept in elaborately wrought and beautifully ornamented leather covers, of which 2 are still preserved in Ireland, namely the cover of the Book of Armagh, described and figured in Petrie's Round Towers, from which it has been copied here, and that of the Shrine of St. Meodoc, featured in the same book and fully described by Ms. Stokes in Archaeologia. According to Mr. Warren in Corpus Missal, this custom of keeping books in leather cases was peculiar to Ireland among Western countries, but was common in the East. For instance, at the present day in the Abyssinian monastery of Suriani in Egypt, the books of the library are enclosed in sacks furnished with straps and hung on pegs, exactly described above for Ireland. Sometimes books were kept in a small case called Lower Chummet, literally book holder, which appears to have been a box made partly or wholly of metals. For in the tripartite life, it is stated that Bishop Assicus, who was Patrick's coppersmith, Faber Creus, a Latin term is used here, though the narrative is in Irish, made quadrangular book covers, Lower Chumeta Ciarachori, and other things in honor of St. Patrick. Tom King is sitting there and he's like, I just got an idea. What do you think, Tom? An elaborate book case, basically, for a fancy book, for a book holder. Lower Chummet. A bespoke, high-end, exclusive item from the forge, maybe. But this is the reason that monasteries in the 9th and 10th centuries, part of the reason, at least, it's much more complex, part of the reason that monasteries were targets of the Vikings is those bookcases, Lower Chummet, were considered extremely valuable. They were treasures. And, as I've repeatedly said, and we've talked about in lots of episodes, the monasteries were undefended. They weren't set up militarily. They were peaceful communes of monks and lay people. And so they were particularly soft targets. And those were among the primary targets, as it were, of the raiders. Now, forgive me for a second. I'm going to have to take a little sup of water just to confirm it is bottled water from the Cumara Mountains down south. A book safe / chastity belt to put around the book of Anthony's dad jokes. Are you suggesting my book of dad jokes wouldn't be funny? You're dead right. Ulla Conrad is in Denmark, has arrived late. That's fine. Ulla, I think, sent on apologies for missing the Zoom, which is fine. Oh, speaking of which, I have to mention Wayne Bird. Wayne messaged me earlier on to say he'll be driving because he's picking up his son, but he's intending to listen, but he won't be able to comment. So, Wayne, if you're listening, a very good evening to you. Drive safely. I hope you and your son are in good form. Water of life. Ishkabaha. The whiskey. No whiskey this evening. Well, not at the moment. Maybe later. Rossio was saying, I'm joining a little too late. What did I miss? Well, the great news is you missed some dad humor. You missed a very deep rabbit hole. You missed some greetings. But all the rest of the stuff, you'll be able to rewatch as soon as the episode is finished. Just go back to about 15 minutes in, I think is when we started actually reading. But hello and good evening to the latecomers. You're all very welcome. Destruction and exportation of books. Books abounded in Ireland when the Danes... Why didn't I just read it instead of waffling? I told you about the Vikings, and here we go. Books abounded in Ireland when the Danes made their first made their appearance, about the beginning of the 9th century. So that the old Irish writers often speak with pride of, quote, the hosts of the books of Erin, unquote. But with the first Danish arrivals... Sorry. Yes, it does say with, not when. But with the first Danish arrivals began the woeful destruction of manuscripts, the records of ancient learning. The animosity of the barbarians was specially directed against books, monasteries, and monuments of religion. And all the manuscripts they could lay hold on, they either burned or drowned, i.e. flung them into the nearest lake or river. Yeah, but maybe he will say it, but they took the cases, the Laur Chumat. They took the metal cases as treasures. They didn't throw those into a lake. For 2 centuries, the destruction of manuscripts went on, and it ceased only when the Danes were finally crushed at Clontarf in 1040. See the way I did that? Crushed. They weren't crushed. Yes, they were defeated in the battle, but as we've always said, the remaining Vikings, settled in Dublin. They didn't flee. Run for your lives. What was it? No, flee. Was that Denethor in The Return of the King? Yeah, and Gandalf knocks him over with the stick because he was basically going to abandon Minas Tirith when it was under attack. He stumbled out onto the balcony and saw the armies preparing for the Battle of the Pelennor Fields and basically panicked and went, flee for your lives. And Gandalf hit him with the stick and knocked him to one side and decided to take control of the battle. Thank God he did. During all this time, that's fiction, by the way, just in case you're wondering. Not this bit about the Vikings, that bit about Lord of the Rings. During all... To which most of you are going, Anthony, we know Lord of the Rings is fiction. You don't need to explain it. Seems like you're mansplaining. And just for the ladies, mansplaining means men explaining things to women. Sorry. I hope that was appreciated as humor, not taken seriously. God. Yeah. The word condescending means to explain things in a way that makes you feel superior and makes the person you're explaining to feel inferior. Sorry, I'll get straight back to it. During all this time, the Irish missionaries and scholars who went abroad brought away great numbers of manuscripts merely to save them from destruction. In many of them are found, to this day, casual remarks, which, though trifling in themselves, bring vividly before us the solitary scribe as he sat working industriously in his cell 1,200 years ago. Well, 1,300 now, because it was a century since this was written. And not unfrequently, they name the home monasteries of the writers or indicate the dates. Very valuable to the modern historian, of course. Yes, Exit 101, Lord of the Rings is at least partially based on Irish mythology and landscape, yes. Caroline Dashay's triggered, lol. The best part are the dad jokes and simple jokes. And there's a laughy face there. And Christine Goodland is going, really? Rossio found it funny. I'm just grateful that you took it in the spirit it was meant. I can see somebody cutting that clip out of a video and sharing it without context, making me look like an absolute twat. But anyway, there you go. Says we don't you don't need our help with that, Anthony. I mean, looking like a twat. Still looking for the gold the monks hid from the Vikings in Glendalough. I know where it is. Next time you see a rainbow, it's at the end of it. For example, in one of the 8th century manuscripts of Zeus, I keep saying Zeuss, he's a scholar, not to be confused with the Greek god. And Dakota is getting rather excited. I think he's looking for drinkies. I mean, water, just in case anybody's thinking he's on the Guinness. Now in St. Gall, these remarks are written on the margin. Do inish maidoc dún edan meshe ocus chorbre. Quote, we belong to Inish Maidoc, namely myself and Carberry. Unquote. Is gone membrum, is tama on dove. Quote, the vellum is scarce, the ink is thin, unquote. I presume dove, which is here D-U-B, which means black in Irish, was the medieval name, or word, should I say, for ink, because presumably most ink was black. I mean, there's obviously a lot of coloured inks in the likes of the Book of Kells. It's a pity they're not fragrant, though, isn't it? Because then we could call it the Book of Smells. I don't know what's gotten into me. I haven't touched a drop. Yes, let us just check. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I for some reason, I'm very giddy tonight. Dove, black, swarthy, dark. Dark in a moral sense, dire, gloomy, melancholy, great, expressing intensity, black pigment, especially ink. Look at that. Dictionary of the Irish language. Yes, indeed. Dove is the word for face palm. Dove is the word for face palm. No, dove is the word for ink. Caroline Dash is face palming. Wah, 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 says Desiree. Taking part in a mythical tour. Who was that? Oh, that comment has disappeared. Where is it? In a mythical Iceland tour in Reykjavik. Be interesting to see if they have similar stories. Absolutely. Don't they have stories of the wee folk in Iceland? Samantha. You'll be cancelled, lol. Yeah, I know. Apparently, yes, you have to be, even with humor, a lot of comedians have said this, you have to be careful because people are too easily upset. But anyway, hopefully I didn't upset anybody. And if I did, apologies, but get on with it. It's humor. Anthony's on fire today, says Rex. Dove is ink called dúch in modern Irish. Ah, there you go. Thank you for that, Fergal. Rossio is saying, ha ha ha, maybe it's the lack of alcohol for me. Funny enough, Michael McGowan is also laughing. Some people are not, Michael, for instance, some people who are not commenting are laughing at the jokes. I think that is a good sign. Anthony, oh dear. Okay, not so good sign. Yes. Right. I think I should just get on with the duty of doing what I should be doing, which is reading. Stop trying to be funny. Emphasis on the word trying. 300 or 400 years later, in AD 1100, Niall Murray, the compiler and writer of the Book of the Dun Cow, wrote on the top margin this remark, partly in Latin, as was usual with the old scribes. Probatio penne Niall Murray mic quinge na mocht. A trial of the pen of Niall Murray, son of the son of Con na Mocht. And still later, Con na Mocht. Bocht. Bail Bocht. Poor. Bocht. Am I right? Do you want to hang around while I check? Okay. I'm not yet. No results. So I spelt it wrong. That's why there's no results. B-O-C-H-T, Anthony. It's not that difficult. It's not rocket science. Yeah. Adjective for meaning poor. Bucked. So the scribe who wrote the Book of the Dun Cow was the son of poor. Apparently I'm doing great. Thanks, Michael. Go for the rabbit hole, says Desiree. Yes, could be neat vodka. Are you saying this could be neat vodka? Comera still. I suppose I could have emptied out the water, put vodka in it. But like if I did that, there'd be signs. If I did that, there'd be a certain way of finding out that I won't be able to read, to be honest. I wouldn't be able to pronounce Desiree if I was drinking neat vodka. Yes, and still later, in the 14th century, this is going to be a very disjointed episode for people to watch back. But live, I'm sure it's brilliant. I can picture you all rolling around laughing. As Blackadder once said, "Thank God I wore my corset, for I think my sides have just split." The scribe of the Lower Breck wrote this marginal remark: Prova pinge o Fergal Maculium for in Quilmend Ol, attesting of a pen by Fergal MacWilliam on the large volume. There you go. Scores of these venerable volumes are now found in continental libraries, some no doubt written by Irishmen on the spot, but most brought from Ireland. Michael O'Clery, the chief of the Four Masters, writes in 1631 in the preface to his Book of Invasions, quote, "Alas, short was the time until dispersion and decay overtook the churches of the saints, their relics, and their books. For there is not to be found of them, the books, now but a small remnant that has not been carried away into foreign countries, carried away so that their fate is unknown from that time to this," unquote. Of course, 17th century, as we've said in many, many episodes, a very turbulent century. The decline and destruction of the old Gaelic order, the beginning of the plantations, the Cromwellian campaign, the Battle of the Boyne, the beginning of the penal laws, and all that came with it. Not to mention what he's talking about here. The monasteries had already been suppressed, but the saving of all that knowledge, you know. Martina Droline has joined us. Droline Linsky. Warm winter blessings to all. Not long till SOS. Yeah, less than a month. Hopefully we'll order one of your fab calendars this week, if you have any left. Yes, there are some left. And just to remind people, if you haven't already done so, they make a great solstice/Christmas gift. And of course, the reason they make a great Christmas gift is because you can begin to use them within a week. That is the 2025 Mythical Ireland calendar. Order yours now and get in before the Christmas mail backlog, because the postal services will be really busy in December. Books were also often sent as presentations from the monasteries at home to continental monasteries founded by Irishmen. But of such volumes, it is pretty certain that there were always duplicates at home. The consequence of this long-continued exploration of Irish books is that there is now a vastly greater quantity of Irish of the 9th and earlier centuries on the continent than we have in Ireland. In essence, sending the volumes away from Ireland, although it has made it more difficult for scholars to study, Old and Middle Irish, it really did save them from destruction. And the reason that we're able to host a lot of these episodes is precisely because some intrepid or brave person undertook the hazardous task of removing those manuscripts from Ireland and bringing them under cloak, as it were, in secret to monasteries on the continent. After the Battle of Clontarf, there was a breathing time, and scholars like MacKellar, Mailwara, MacKellachor, who is, sorry, he may be talking about someone else. But Maelmurra, who we mentioned being the writer of the Book of the Dun Cow, his surname was MacKellachor. There was a breeding time, and scholars like MacKelleher, MacGorman, and MacCruffin set to work to rescue what was left of the old literature, collecting the scattered fragments and copying into new volumes everything that they could find worth preserving. And Desiree has already mentioned earlier that she could hear coda, so there you go. Caroline Dash says, talking of the wee folk, been listening to a podcast on BBC Sounds, and they mentioned fairy hawthorn trees in Ireland. Brilliant stuff. This is my favourite sort of Mythflix reading, says Desiree. Anthony's joy is contagious. Oh my God! I hope it's not contagious in the sense that you start telling all of you start telling all your friends the terrible jokes I tell and get the same reaction. Yes, collecting scattered fragments and copying into new volumes everything that they could find worth preserving. By the way, the whole idea of the four masters, the annals, was that the four monks involved, led by, wasn't it O'Cleary? Yeah, that they went around all the monasteries and collected everything they could and compiled it into one volume because they knew everything was under threat. They knew everything was going to change. And we're very glad that they did. It must have been immense. I have a book about the Four Masters, a very scholarly book about the compilation of the annals of the Four Masters. And I hope you can still hear me. Yeah, I see it up there. It is exactly where I thought it was. Yeah, I must actually read it from beginning to end. Numbers of such books were compiled, and much of the learning and romance of old days was reproduced in the 11th and 12th centuries. Notwithstanding the Danish devastations, many of the original volumes also, written long before the time of MacKelleher, still remained. But next came the Anglo-Norman invasion, which was quite as destructive of native learning and art as the Danish inroads, or more so. And most of the new transcripts, as well as of the old volumes that survived, were scattered and lost. The destruction of manuscripts continued during the perpetual wars that distracted the country down to comparatively recent times, and many, which existed even so late as 200 years ago, are now gone. Remember, Joyce writing in 1903, so perhaps the turn of the 18th century. What he's saying is that there were still manuscripts that existed then that had been destroyed in the interim. O'Curry, in the first lecture of his manuscript materials, gives a long list of the, quote, lost books of Erin, unquote. The great gaps in Irish literature are painfully indicated everywhere in the fragments that remain. Imagine what we would know. For instance, just one example, which I would think about a lot. Imagine what more might have been written about Brunabonia, about Newgrange, and the myths and legends of Mouth and Douth, and the late Neolithic Enoch at Brunabonia, and the likes of Tara, and Clochta and Talcha, and all the places. Imagine what we've lost. We're lucky that we have so much that survives, but is only a fragment of what was lost. It's only a fraction of what was lost. Professor Kuno Meyer, in the preface to his King and Hermit, mentions among, quote, the great mass of material that has been irretrievably lost, unquote, comma, requote, whole legendary cycles revealed by casual references only, tales of which nothing but the titles, poems of which the initial lines only have been preserved, unquote. It is indeed heartbreaking. Yes, it is. Yes, it makes sense to have them hidden away. Here, when the Spaniards came to Mexico, says Rossio, also managed to destroy a lot of writings and stones, but thanks to the size of the country and the harsh region, jungle, a lot of those writings were hidden away, and till these days they've been found in different places through Mexico. Brilliant stuff, which gives Brendan Byrne some hope that the lost gold of Glendalough will be found. We're used to listening to you talking out of the back of your head when you're looking for a reference book. I know, Burr. I apologise. Yes. Geoffrey Keating's History of Ireland changed my life just recently, so I'm a bit emotional. Keating, of course, the last, I suppose, Keating was writing at the same time as the Four Masters. He was writing in the first half of the 17th century, that time of tremendous upheaval and change. It was to change everything. And he and the Four Masters were basically the last of the old order of knowledge, who were collecting all of the lore, the histories, the poetry, the wisdom, the annals, the chronicles, etc., to save them from, ultimate destruction. And for that, we have to be very grateful. One of the problems with Keating, the challenges rather than the problems, and it's not his fault, is that a lot of the sources for his material are unavailable to us, which makes it very difficult. Of course, you could say the same of the Four Masters. They were copying their chronicles from all the other annals, from all the other monasteries. Probably all of those, or most of them, destroyed. But Keating certainly a fascinating read. And by the way, Keating is still in print. You can get it on the is it the Royal Irish Academy or the Dublin Institute of Advanced Studies? It's the green, the green cover with the gold inlay. There's volume 1, Dublin Institute for Advanced Studies, I'm pretty sure. Or Irish Text Society, yes, but maintained in print. Oh yeah, no, it is. It's the Irish Text Society, care of the Royal Bank of Scotland. I'm sure there's a story there, but we won't go into it. So this is originally printed in 1902, a year before the book we're currently reading by Joyce. First published 1902, reprinted 1987 and 2017. So that's volume 1. I'm not sure if it's 2 or 3 volumes, but you can basically still get them. And it's a facsimile reprint of the original. It's an exact reprint. Oscailga on Lower Shu August Berla are on not Lower a page. Yeah. Somebody will tell me what the Irish for page is, or leaf. The Irish on the left and the English translation on the right. I love those. I always like to know what are they, when they use a particular word, what are they translating it from? What is the Irish word? And then I go to things like Onomasticon and Dictionary of the Irish Language. And I find that sometimes, I just want to know. And sometimes maybe that's not what exactly was meant, Just catching up. It is sad to lose all that knowledge, but also good because the remaining stuff that was left is even more appreciated by its people, at least I hope. Well, yes, while it doesn't bring back what was lost, we are very fortunate. And of course, one of the things we've been saying since the first episode, really, because we were reading Charles Squire in episode 1, all the way back in March 2020, that when you read a book about Irish or Celtic mythology, most of what you're reading is going to be Irish and a bit of Welsh. There's very little Scottish mythology. There's a lot of Scottish folklore, and hardly anything other than the Arthurian tales from England. Basically, England lost its old Celtic mythology with the Romans, So we're very fortunate that so much survived. I think I already said it. Mark Gordon. Yes, I did. Mark, I hope you are having a good day. Books continued to be brought away to the continent long after the time of Michael O'Clery. For those Catholic priests and others who fled from Ireland during the penal times commonly brought their precious manuscripts with them, and many other volumes were hidden away in remote places. For in those evil days, the mere fact of finding an Irish book in a man's possession put the owner in danger of his life. No, don't go there, Anthony. Yeah, well, there are books I can't believe in the 21st century there are apparently developed, educated, democratic countries in the Western Hemisphere banning books. Anyway, even in our own day, Irish manuscripts have been brought to America by immigrants who loved them too well to part with them. This is going to be a long. Is that enough for another volume? One or another episode? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pages. How many did we read tonight between the jokes and the rabbit holes? Oh, less than that. Okay, well, I could read another couple of pages anyway, and then we'll make another episode out of it next week. Next week will be titled Episode 303, Ancient Irish Libraries, Part 2. So that's why we don't really know much about English gods pre-Roman. Yeah. Now, in all likelihood, some of them are familiar. Like we know some of the Welsh ones there's familiarities that Squire and others explored. But yeah, a lot of it was lost, you know. Volumes of miscellaneous matter. Of the 11th and 12th centuries transcript volumes, portions and only portions of just 2 remain. Laura na Hira, or the Book of the Dun Cow, and Laura Lion, the Book of Leinster. That these 2 books are copies from older manuscripts and not themselves original compositions of the time, there is ample and unquestionable internal evidence. For example, on page 37 of the Book of the Dun Cow, copied AD 1100, is a remark in Irish, of which this is the translation. Quote, pray for Maelwurry MacKellichar, who wrote and collected this book from a variety of books, unquote. And as fully bearing this out, the same Maelwurry, by the way, Maelwurry MacKellichar, I've said this on more than one occasion, died at Clonmacnoise during a Viking raid. He was killed by a Viking. And as fully bearing this out, the same Maelwurry, when transcribing the story of the destruction of the Derga's hostel, what do you see? If you don't know what I'm talking about, we did 4 episodes on the Derga's hostel in 2020, I think. And they were quite a lot of fun, just put it that way. Says in one place towards the end of the tale, and this is in Stokes's translation, quote, this is what some books relate, viz. That but a few fell around Connery, namely 9 only, unquote. And a little farther on he goes to say, this, however, is the account given in other books, which is probably truer. That of the people of the hostel, 40 or 50 fell, and of the assailants, 3/4 of them, unquote. Or 3/4, we might say today. But it must be borne in mind that we have many other books, like the 2 above mentioned, copied after 1100, from very ancient volumes, since lost. The Yellow Book of Lecan, for example, contains pieces as old as those in the Book of the Dun Cow, or older, though copied at a much later period. Most of the books alluded to here and named below consist of miscellaneous matter, tales, poems, biographies, genealogies, histories, annals, and so forth, all mixed up, with scarcely any attempt at orderly arrangement, and almost always copied from older books. This practice of copying miscellaneous pieces into one great volume was very common. Some of these books were large and important literary monuments, which were kept with affectionate care by their owners, and were celebrated among scholars as great depositories of Celtic learning. And commonly, I nearly said suppositories. Sorry. Yes, apologies. We'll cut that bit out. Can we do take 2? Yeah. Oh, it's live. Oh, we can't. And commonly known by special names, such as the Cuilman, the Psalter of Cashel, the Book of Cona. No one was permitted to make entries in such precious books except practised and scholarly scribes, and the value set on them may be estimated from the fact that one of them was sometimes given as ransom for a captive chief. Wow. I will here notice a few of the most important of those we possess, all vellum, but there are also many important paper manuscripts. Yeah, this seems like exactly the perfect time to stop and leave the second bit for episode 2 next week. Lol, what have you been drinking? Well, nothing, but yeah, sometimes I'm giddy. And sometimes I realize that it's not sometimes, I think I've always realized that one of the important things about live streaming, especially when it began with the pandemic, was to try to maintain good humor in trying times, and to provide a place that's safe and welcoming, but also humorous. Because at the end of the day, we're human, we like to laugh. And look, no better man. I laugh at myself most of the time, even when nobody else is laughing, such as when I tell dad jokes at the dinner table. You should see that, really, you should. But fascinating. Oh no, yeah, you see, I have to leave you on a cliffhanger. It's like every good TV series or Netflix series. At the end of an episode, you have to leave them on a cliffhanger, so they want to come back for more next week. You know, that is the secret to the success of Alive Irish Myths. In Keating's time, there were at least 30 known recorded books missing. There's a book or a documentary in that for you. Where did they all disappear to, Anthony? Yeah, brilliant question, Mark. And I think it's something that has been remarked on by scholars, that even of the stuff, even of the material that's still extant, a huge amount of translation still needs to be done. And I've argued on more than one occasion here that some of the older translations need to be retranslated. You know, I mean, Whitley Stokes was undoubtedly a savant and a brilliant scholar and indefatigable. His volume of work, his breadth of work in translating material was vast. Him and many others, but I single out him. But he was writing at a time when there were sensitivities around certain themes, such as, for instance, sexual themes. And the language that's used is quite archaic English. So I definitely do think it's a bit like the way Thomas Kinsella, you know, really, really brought Toynbee Cunha to a mass modern audience. He translated it into modern language, as it were, you know. I really feel that the same could be done for many others. I know Morgan Daimler has, for instance, retranslated Caught My Chura, the Second Battle of Moitura, and it's brilliant work. But it's just, I think, we shouldn't be just looking at the untranslated stuff. Yes, I would love to see it, of course, definitely. But I think we also need to retranslate some of the older stuff. Story archaeology. The ladies over there were doing just such work. And retranslating, for instance, some of the metrical Denhianicus. You know, Chris Thompson, and just can't immediately think of the other lady's name. It's just evading me at this moment in time. It'll come back to me. But yeah, I think there's a whole area there. But anyway, that's not what you were saying, Mark. There's a documentary about where did all the missing books, and you know, given the fact that some of them were hidden, remember that only the person who hides them knows where they are. In other words, it's highly possible that there are pre-Norman era, Viking era, not pre-Viking era, pre-Norman, Viking era, and possibly pre-Viking era manuscripts in hiding places somewhere. Now, admittedly, they mightn't be in such good nick depending on where they were hidden, but it reminds me of the Psalter. What was the Psalter that was found? It's on display in the National Museum. It was found in a bog. I saw it earlier on this year. The Fadden Moor Psalter, found in County Tipperary. If they're left in the right place, they can actually be preserved. And even though they may not look very well preserved, I mean, if you saw the condition, go to this. I'll show you. Go to this website. It's the National Museum of Ireland website, and look at the pictures of that manuscript as it was found. It's amazing that they were able to recover a lot of the text of that book and read what's actually in it. Amazing stuff. So I think it's highly possible that there are, in Ireland, yet to be discovered manuscripts that were hidden away during that era. Sadly, some of those that were thrown into lakes or burned, of course, are irretrievable. But of course, the problem is, even though Ireland's a relatively small country, it's a small. So there's a spammer offering palm readings. You know what to do, folks. Report. No, thank you. We do not want your jiggery pokery nonsense. Literally has commented on everyone's comment. Okay, let me try and deal with that before we finish. Report that a person on Facebook who's literally commenting on everyone's comment offering a palm reading. Of course I can't, because I can only see the last 4 comments. But I know you. There you go. Barbara Murphy's already done so. Brilliant stuff, Barbara. Thank you. And anyone else who sees it. Thanks, Anthony, for the laughs today. Maybe that will carry me through 2 days of cooking for a meal that only lasts about an hour. Haven't you heard of McDonald's? I'm joking. I know. Yes. Yeah. Well, I'm sure it'll be worth it. I mean, if you're investing 2 days of time into it, it certainly sounds like it'll be very nice. That's presumably your Thanksgiving message meal even. What is the name of the documentary on missing books? No. I think Barbara, Mark was suggesting that a documentary be made on the subject. That it would be a fascinating topic for a documentary, and I agree 100% with Mark on that front. Just arriving at work. Soon my Mondays will be free again. Oh, well, we're glad that you were able to pop in to say hello, Michael. And when your Mondays are free again, we look forward to you reacting to my poor humor. I joke, of course. My palm reading report. My palm reading says, report. I see, Tom, I see metal. And I see a strange metal object that looks like an anvil. And I see smoke. And I see sheepskin rugs. And I see jewelry. And I see international tourists. And I see a big jolly man with a beard laughing. Yeah. Thank you. That'll be €20, please. Yeah. Brilliant. Michael McGowan says it's great to be here. Thanks for joining us, Michael. I hope you can come back next week. Thank you, Caroline, for reporting that spammer. Michael Pike says, I have sorely missed this. He's talking about the wisdom and the education and the mythology and the history and the lore. He's definitely not talking about the dad jokes. If you'd like to support Mythical Ireland, there are many ways you can do it. A very important one is to consider becoming a patron, because this is literally how the show is kept on the road. Without the support of the many Mythical Ireland patrons, I would basically be back at work full time, and I'd have very little time to do my live streaming and researching and writing and all the other things. So thank you in advance for becoming a patron, but remember to become a patron at one of the paid levels, because if you become a patron at the free level, you don't really get anything that is not on social media. Anyway, the other thing is to sign up for the newsletter over on the website. And last week's email was about Clochta, the Hill of Ward, and its significance around Samhain and its mythological significance. And, of course, its archaeological significance. That was a long read email of about 1,500 words. Patrons also got that. So if you want the goodies, as it were, consider becoming a patron. And don't forget, of course, that there's lots of other things that you can purchase as presents, gifts for your loved ones for solstice and Christmas on the Mythical Ireland website, on mythicalireland.com, on the shop. And if you're not sure what to get, you can get a Mythical Ireland gift voucher, which can be redeemed against, any of the items in the shop, the gift card or the gift voucher. And I'll just paste that link in there and gift that to somebody as a Christmas present or a solstice present and say, here, I knew you'd like something from Mythical Ireland, but I don't know what you wanted. So here's a gift voucher and you can get whatever you like, including limited edition prints, by the way. And there's a nice array of those. Visible, selectable, purchasable. Brendan Byrne says, I forgot to order my calendar due to work pressure. Need to correct that. That's okay, Brendan. No problem at all. There's plenty. I still have a couple of boxes of them here anyway. So, but do obviously order them before they disappear, Michael says, I'm an ACL man now living in California. Ordered 2 calendars for gifts. Brilliant stuff, Michael, and thank you for that. ACL, a truly remarkable part of the world. Wild and rugged, of course. In the summer, in particular, it's Keene, isn't it, or Kiel? Is it Kiel Beach or Keene? Oh, we were there first as kids a long time ago, and I just thought a beautiful place at the end of the earth, basically, and the Cliff Drive, of course. But anyway, I'm sure you're missing it, but probably not missing the weather, depending on where you are. Yeah, you're in California, so you're not missing the Mayo weather, but joining way too late this evening, says Peter Kennedy. Well, Peter, you'll be glad to know that, first of all, the Red Book didn't make an appearance, which in your case would require an hour and a half of detention. But joking. You'll be glad to know that this episode was, I think, particularly joyful and jolly and full of dad humor. So you may want to watch it back now when we finish it, which should be available for immediate reviewing. I'd love to have my leather satchel back, Christy. I was watching a documentary today on the theft of the Mona Lisa. I'll grab your book. Great fun today, says Adina. Have a safe week, everyone. And the same right back at you. Linda Byrne. I can't join often, but love every episode I can watch live. You all have a great day / evening. Yes, and you also, Linda. Thanks for dropping in. Great to see you again. And we'll see you all next week. So the next book will come with a leather satchel or a metal cover. It could do. It would make it horribly expensive, tremendously expensive. But hey, some people will pay for that. Speaking of which, I can get it. If I can't, I'm not going to. But there is a book which was Lady Wiles' book, I think, wasn't it? About Irish folklore, that was published beautifully in the last couple of years, and it came in a box. And of course, just as soon as I go looking for it, I can't find it, but I'll find it for a future episode. Thanks for keeping me sane, says Brendan. Well, this is either a place where everybody is sort of super wise and super educated and super sound, or it's a bit of an insane asylum, because I didn't think my jokes were that funny. No, I did, really, because I always laugh at my own jokes. I can't hold a straight face when I tell a joke. Thanks, Anne. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thanks for the laughs and the interesting reading. It's Joe. It's almost like the interesting reading is just a sideline to the to the laughs. Anyway, you're all very welcome. Thanks for joining us. Hope you can tune in next week. In the meantime, don't forget to sign up for the newsletter, become a patron, keep an eye on the website, and the social media. Not so active on the social medias these days, but they're all going down the tubes, people, and they're bringing civilization with them. So, yes. Can I spend all my red book penalties in Anthony's library? I'd fly to Ireland just for that, says Barbara. If yes. If you can tolerate the untidiness of the place and the dogs. Well, not Saskia is very. She was 13, by the way, a few days ago, so she's getting elderly, as it were. Coda. You have to be good with dogs. Tom King knows what I'm talking about. Tom knows how to deal with Coda, but Coda demands it. He's big and strong. He'd knock you over with excitement. Rex, good man, Anthony. Take care, everyone. Off to see Gladiator 2. Yeah, looking forward to going to see that soon. We're all mad here. You don't have to be mad to be a myth flixer, but it does help. Yes, indeed. Slán go fóill. Thanks, Michael, and we'll see you hopefully next week. Caroline Dash says, great episode. Take care and have a lovely week. Everyone, brilliant stuff. You have a lot of credits. That I presume that's to Barbara. Yeah. Anyway, have a good one. We'll talk to you next week. All that remains for me to say at this moment in time is Ichoa, which means good night. Kolosov, which means sound sleep. If you're in America or in Australia, don't fall asleep right now. Slán go fóill, which means bye for now. And the most important of all is Tog go bugge, which means take it easy, which I hope you do. We'll see you sooner rather than later, hopefully. Good night, goodbye, good day, good afternoon, good morning, good evening.